in your question is the answer, and in your answer is the question. So basically, the moment you try to bottle something, and so what do you bottle? You bottle something that doesn't have life anymore.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And apparently hat count is the problem today because Camden has them on the wall and doesn't wear one. I've got two behind me, and I'm wearing one. Camden, tell us what happened. Why don't you wear a hat during the show?
Well, because when you commissioned the logo back in the day when we were still the Cam and Otis show, you had a hat in the logo and I didn't. And so from there on, we said, well, he wears the hat, I don't. And it's funny because, speaking of hats, I do wear a lot of hats. There's many other people in my life who are baffled by the idea that I have hair underneath the hats. Because you'll never see me out at a rugby thing without a hat on. Like, you'll never see me out there working in the yard, working out. I wear hats everywhere except for the 45 minutes to an hour that we spend with lovely folks like Rajesh right here.
Yeah.
I get pretty just for y'all.
and here's the other reason. The real reason is I'm too cheap to pay to have another logo done. So anybody wants to volunteer to do a Cam or a sorry. See, now you got me back to the Cam and Otis habit again. To a 10X Your Team logo. Go
where
ahead.
I could wear a hat. That would save me a lot of time in the morning. I could just roll right out of bed, throw on a hat, get in here, because that's what you do.
Yeah. Rajesh, man, where is your hat collection, my friend?
My hat collection is many, many miles away in Dubai.
Oh,
and I happen to be in Bombay today, or Mumbai, as it's called now. I flew in yesterday, and so I don't have any hats.
I can't travel without one, man. I'm like bad luck on a plane if I ain't got a hat on,
Yeah.
So, man.
The problem is if I wear a hat, my hair kind of becomes spooky.
That's why once you put the hat on, you got to keep it on, right?
Yeah, too.
That's unless you're Camden and then you pretty up your hair. So, life's big problems.
This is one of the few circles I wind up as the pretty boy at.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of things can be done with a hat on. And one of them, I'd love to. I want to dive in because I'm always curious when we get a guest on that you ran a hospital. Is that the good way of putting it? The simple way of putting it when you started off in your career?
No, it was not. I didn't start off there. I started in our ancestral business, which was established in 1880, and we manufacture umbrellas, and we got a bunch of different agencies. Cement.
1880s. Wow.
1880.
Wow.
Yeah. And
they're still going?
It's still going. I worked there for about 11 or 12 years. Then I took a sabbatical for 3.5 years to pursue music. And then I set up this hospital. So I built it. I operated it for 12 years, and then I exited it.
So hospital life, my sister-in-law, Camden's aunt, she used to do that. And I just, maybe I'm tainted by TV, which I'm sure I am. But I just think that the egos in a hospital have to have really honed your people skills.
Yes, absolutely. So, we have, in India, it's a different kind of a setup. You have doctors that are employed by the hospital, and then you got doctors that are not employed, but they are the big shots. And those guys, they walk in, you got to make sure everything is right for them. They don't have time, and their demands are very high. So managing all of that from a provider's point of view was quite an education.
I bet. I bet. And then is that kind of your foundation for helping CEOs scale their business? Is how to deal, because we always joke, and heck, I was joking last night with some friends over a cigar about the frustrations of that he's having in his business. I said, yeah, well, it's because we got people in the business. So is that what that foundation you had at standing up that hospital? Is that what you think maybe is enabling you to help so many CEOs?
Well, it's a tripod.
Mm,
One of the pillar comes from the hospital, and it's got again two sides of the coin. So first side of the coin in the hospital is how do you manage people so that they deliver results, which basically to save
Mm,
life and so on. And the other side is that the whole environment is a life and death environment. So
mm,
it's time criticality. So you have people management with time criticality as one pillar. The other pillar comes from ancestral business, which has endured from 1880 till now. So obviously we're doing some things right. And so what are all those things that we're doing right? And so it's all a value based or value driven culture. And very strangely, when we try to write it down or we try to say these are our values or this is what it is, uh, it doesn't do it any
mm,
how do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? It's not it. So it's like
mm,
saying, if you know how to cycle, you can talk a lot about cycle, but you can't explain balance.
mm,
And it is that balance that enables you to cycle for as long and as far as you want to go. So there are certain things that come together which drive, an organization for a long period of time. So that's the second one. And third,
mm,
which comes from my music, is basically how do you create harmony and peace and consensus. So it's a people piece, it's a time criticality piece, it's also these values, and then the last framework that I discovered that really makes things work is physics. So how do you apply
mm.
physics to business? So these are the four things, and if you really look at it, it's not very complicated. It's very, very easy.
The balance piece there, I love that. The idea that it's like you can't explain that balance piece. You have to really experience it yourself. What are some ways that you've tried to, I always use the words like bottle up some of those lessons from the family business, from the ancestral business, and apply them? Because I think it's always an interesting thing where I can clearly see how a business that's lasted that long has learned a lot of great lessons. Taking those lessons and applying them to a separate business is much trickier. It's just like I make fun of you, Dad, for talking about Green Beret leadership. And it's like, well, yeah, you were a Green Beret. You were in the Army for 25 years. You have all these things. It's hard to bottle that up and give it to someone else. What have you found, Rajesh, is a helpful way of trying to pass along some of those lessons?
Well, if you look at those lessons, the way to look at lessons is lesson a thing that you're trying to pass on? Is it a learning? Is it a principle? What is it that you're trying to pass on? And what I've discovered is that it's not really the thing that's important, but it's the storytelling. And that
Mm,
is something that's brilliant. And everybody has a different way of telling the stories. So the moment we engage in storytelling with people, uh, the values get communicated. And for the longest time in the history of our civilization, cultures have been built only on stories.
yeah, they weren't written down. Here's the
Yeah,
values of our village, right,
there you
or our
go. Yeah,
tribe or
absolutely. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, and, and so and then they're through those lessons, or the stories are revealed through. Wait, I gotta get my
yeah,
words
the
in my
lesson is
order.
revealed through the story.
There we
There you
go.
go.
There we go.
But I want to add a question to that. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily pushing back, but I think there's an interesting layer there, which is stories can also be interpreted different ways. And I think that's why, as a leader, we tend to want to bottle it down into a lesson of, hey, do this thing rather than telling the story because we're worried about the way that it might be interpreted, right? And I think that's an interesting piece of the storytelling of trying to find a way to tell it that you're allowing people to teach the lesson. I don't know. The easiest example, and Rajesh, I'm sorry if you don't know the movie, but Dad, I always think like Scarface as the example. There's people who go and they're like, Tony Montana's the best. It's like that's not the lesson of the movie. He's a terrible person. There's always that interpretation there. So I think it's interesting. How do you add the layer of storytelling to keep everyone on the same page and not wind up rooting for the drug dealer like they do in Scarface?
You see, in your question is the answer, and in your answer is the question. So basically, the moment you try to bottle something, and so what do you bottle? You bottle something that doesn't have life anymore. So even if you look at wine, for example, wine is aging in a cask. The moment you bottle it, it's no longer aging, it's done. You can't keep that bottle for 50 years and say, I've got a 50-year-old wine. It doesn't work. So it's an organic process. So what really happens is that when people co-create from that story what works, it will all be different perspectives on the same thing, and then people enroll themselves into whatever it is that you're creating. And I have worked with my own values for the longest time, and I can tell you, I don't have a clue what my values are, because my values are evolving all the time. And I don't, if I try to pass on my values to my boy, and this is him when he was little, he's 26 now. Uh, has he turned out? Yes. But have I packaged anything and given it to him? No. So what did we do? We just engaged in conversations, and he figured stuff out. And and then we said, okay, let's try it out. Does it work? So this is the whole big piece about values that people, kind of want to put in the way we do things. That framework doesn't help. So people need freedom. So there is process and there's outcome. And for the longest time, people were always working with outcomes, where the process was variable. Along come all the business school professors, and they have identified all these processes, and they're saying, now let's work with this process. So you have a choice: fixed process, variable outcome, or fixed outcome, variable process. And when I have approached all the companies and everybody I work with, we focus on fixed outcome, variable process, guardrails, and swim lanes. We're done.
How do you help that CEO establish that? Because if we're telling stories and we're not like and maybe you still are, so correct me on this, but you're not handing that new executive, the new vice president for sales, you're not handing them an employee handbook that starts off with, here's our values, kind of the traditional Harvard Business School approach. Here's our values, here's our mission, and here's our vision. Now get to work. So what's the counter to that we can help folks understand how to do it differently and better, truthfully?
So I'll share a real live case study exactly on this point. There's a company that I'm working with. They've hired a chief of staff, and this person really has a pristine CV, the work that she's done, and so on and so forth. And now they have a mismatch between the two partners and the chief of staff. And they've done everything traditionally, here is a handbook, here is all that stuff, right? And it's not working. So now they come back to me because I'm working with the partners. They said, what do we do? I said, just take everything that you've written up and throw it out of the basket, throw it out into the waste paper basket. So then what do we do? So I said, nothing. Just have a conversation. No, but then how will it work? It's become very chaotic. So what do we do? No, we've got to give her a manual. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. I said, you already done it, and is that working for you? So we got to the place where we said, okay, let's now tackle this from a different perspective. So I said, look, what you are looking for is a shift in behaviors for all three of you. And those behaviors will be driven by what are the outcomes that you want at the end of 3 months. And let's articulate those behaviors. Turned out for the partners, there were 7 behaviors each different and 9 behaviors for this chief of staff. That when we started working with those, everything started to work. So it's really about behavior, isn't it? Why are we giving them stuff? We want them to behave in a particular way. So if we tell them, look, this is the old behavior, this is the desired behavior, can you interpret that behavior in your own way and tell us how you will work with it? And we let's figure it out. And you want us to make some shifts in our behavior, we'll do it. So basically, it just started to work without any of that nonsense of manuals and this and that. I said every 7 days we're just going to check in with you. How are you doing on these behaviors? Give a score, and three of you score each other, and then we'll go with whatever it is. We're not going to argue. We'll take the score and say, okay, now what are the three things we need to do to improve our score in this and this area. End of story.
How much the thing I keep coming back to with this is how much of this problem we're talking about as far as implementation and passing on the wisdom and values and those different things, how much of that problem is just the leader and their desire for control? And then, in your opinion, how do they break away from that piece of control and allow more of this flexibility?
See, we've got to step back a little bit from your question and look at, how the world of commerce and business has evolved in the last 50 years. Let's not even go beyond that. So about 50 years back, there was a differential in information, education, knowledge, with the result that the model that worked is a pedestal command and control. So when you're coming from a command and control model to make things work, now we've come to a completely different age. Just look at the two of you, father and son. You're on one podcast. You think 50 years back it would have really worked? No way. You would have been going, Camden would have been, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir. But
Yep.
the point is, the two of you enjoy this beautiful relationship right here in front of us. We don't have to look far. And that has not come from, your dad packing values and stuff and stuffing it down your throat. He created the environment for you to explore and then say, hey, dad, this worked, this didn't work, da da da, all that stuff. And you're an individual by yourself. So ultimately, that's what we're looking for for a founder and a leadership team. We want everybody to show up in their individuality and align on the outcomes, align on what needs to happen, and then keep the huddles going. So that's basically what it is. So I tell people, if you think you can control anybody, try controlling yourself. You can't control yourself. You don't have any consistency. You don't have consistency in where you wake up, when you do exercises, the food that you eat. You don't have consistency even in making a cup of coffee. Every time you make a cup of coffee, it's varying. So where is the quality? What quality standards do you have? No, you haven't accessed any of that, and you're trying to make other people do it. So there's a better way.
I do think, and without chasing the rabbit too far on this, because I do think it's an interesting piece. There's an aspect to that. You know, we joke of the like doctor heal thyself, and there's a lot of folks out there who have something wrong and they're trying to fix it in everyone else and not look at themselves. I think that there's a lot of leaders who have that problem, and the reason they micromanage is because they are not happy with their life. They cannot control themselves, like you're saying, Rajesh, and so they go in that I got to control everything in Otis's life. I got to take over his life because I can't control mine. And it is it's not a good place to be in. Doesn't make for very good leadership, does it?
Camden, you spoke about almost. I I don't want to be arrogant, but I say you spoke about 97% of humanity. I would have been arrogant if I would have said 100%. So I stayed within my limit. So 97%, and the point is that this actually starts at the age of 3 to 5 when something happens. You could drop a glass of water on a carpet and your parent, one of them gives you that tough look and walks away. So that's when the first failure, the first splinter in the sense of belonging happens. And then the rest of your life, you're compensating for it. And then when you start compensating for it, you want to do all of the stuff that you're talking about. So it's really about the unfinished business of the past that really drives that behavior. And that behavior is not productive because you can't really create consensus. You can't create enrollment. All the time you're expediting, you're pushing, you get tired, everybody's tired, and they need a job. So that's the whole what you said is so spot on. It's absolutely spot on. So now there are two ways of dealing with it, and I've worked with both. The first way to deal with it is to work with the founder to actually complete themselves, to find out what those elements are and complete themselves. But it takes a long while and it takes commitment. The other way is that we say, listen, in today's day and age, you can't beat. Earlier it was Google, now it's AI, and these guys are smarter than you. They're younger, they're smarter. So the best way for you to produce a result is to just focus on one word, is to generate consensus. And I give them that cycle. That now go play with that cycle, figure out the balance on how do you generate consensus. Pretty quickly they figure out that, their old ways of doing things, taking over control, everything that you said, Camden, they discover themselves it doesn't work. So they start automatically getting into a peer space.
So how does that
That's
help
the
them?
antidote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rajesh. Sorry.
No, I see that. And so what Camden said is absolutely brilliant. The antidote for that is, generate consensus as a peer.
As a fear?
As a peer.
As a peer leader.
Oh, fear. Oh, yes. Because, and the reason I said fear is because I wasn't going to ask about that.
Yeah, but like if I look at the two of you, you're operating from peer space. And you are able to very quickly arrive at consensus and see the freedom Camden has to go into any rabbit hole, keep digging till he finds whatever it is, and Dad is kind of smiling and then he takes over. This is really what life is really all about.
So my thought was part of that obstacle that I think leaders have is that fear. And how do you help that CEO overcome that? The fear of the failure. If I let them do it, we're going to lose money. We're not going to make our numbers. The board's not, all those sort of things that are going on. How do you help them, that CEO, overcome that fear so that he can enable his team to and deal with that and create that consensus on the outcome and the process?
So this is it's a very interesting question and very interesting dynamic. And truth be told, it can't be done. So I tell the founder, Mr. CEO, I said, you're never ever going to come out of that fear psychosis, and you're stuck where you're stuck. There's no future for you. And they look at me and they're starting to kind of, get irritated, angry, all that stuff, right? So I drive them to the edge of their paradigm and say, listen, when you sit in a taxi or you have a car and you have a chauffeur or a driver driving you, don't you fear, or even when you take a flight, there's a pilot. What happens to your fear of life there? So you have this ability to trust people. But the difference is that there is a game condition that a driver will drive the car because he's also fearful of his own life, etc. And that's where you start to relax. Though you haven't created a game condition in your business. And you are the one pulling all the levers. And you say you don't have trust. Damn right, they don't trust you and you don't trust them. Have a party. So it really starts with small things. And if they really, really look at it, there's lots and lots of evidence that they trust their people. They have an accountant who's writing the books, they trust that guy. They have an assistant who gets, an event organized, a gala event organized, they trust that person. So if you really look at it, trust lives inside a necessary set of conditions. If those conditions are not satisfied, it's not going to work.
How does ownership of the team over their problem set help to start to build that trust? And because that's my first thought when you mentioned like the taxi driver is, well, he has ownership over the situation. He also has fear for his life, right? My thought is then, well, that's why we need to have ownership inside the business of, hey, I need to make sure that you understand that you own the process, you own the outcome, you are able to, like we said, we have guardrails up, but you're allowed to deviate between those to an extent. How do you think that ownership has an impact on the trust and the fear component there?
It has a huge impact. And this whole ownership piece really starts from delegation. And what most founders have access in delegation is that they have people they delegate to, but what they delegate to them is projects. And so they delegate projects and the tasks within the projects, and what are the scope of the project. So it's projects, tasks, and scope. So the moment you delegate project, task, and scope, your leadership team has now become vendors. Because that's what we do with vendors. So if you are putting people in a vendor space, ownership is not going to show up. They're two different things. A vendor will have ownership to the extent that it makes sense for him. But the ownership that you're talking about really comes when they move to a higher level of delegation, where they delegate outcomes and give them agency and freedom to figure out their process. Of course, they've got to have those conversations, make sure the guardrails are put in place, make sure the swim lanes are established. And once that starts, ownership starts to show up. So outcomes and freedom and ownership go together, and projects, tasks, and scope, vendorship goes. So you have vendors, they're doing what they're doing, and you got to pay them. And then you're looking for ownership. Not going to happen.
It's just like the example of when somebody's micromanaging a team member, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
why isn't Rajesh going and doing all these things? Because you put him in a box. You wanted an employee, you put him in a box. He's going to stay in the box. He's doing his job. Like it's exactly what you asked for.
yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it. And that's what I'm saying. Camden, this is either impossible or it's very easy. People are not doing the heavyweight lifting in figuring out how they are creating and perpetuating this situation.
So
Do you
I'm
guys go
gonna.
camping? Do you guys go? Sorry, I'm asking you, Otis. I'm interrupting. You guys go camping?
Oh, yeah. I mean, somewhat.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
You
not.
camp
So,
for a living.
Camden, do you know how to light a campfire?
Yeah, yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, there you go. So there is a process to it, right? Now you get a city boy who's never done that and say, okay, don't light the fire. What's going to happen to him?
They're
Gonna be
gonna
cold.
run out of matches. That's what's gonna happen.
But I think to your point, I doubt I light a fire like you light a fire, Dad, or like Papa taught me how to light a fire. It's all different. There's a great point
That's
there.
fine. But so the point is, the fixed outcome is the fire. You take ownership and do it your way.
That's and I think that's the shift that every leader, if you're not already doing it, has to do it in order to be successful. How does that relate to the ROI, the profit? Because I think that's always, as the owner founder, that's, you're always worried about my capital. Do I still have cash flow? And if I spend this, and I'm increasing my risk by allowing them to, take charge. How do you help
Yeah, it
that?
steps into. I was just gonna say it steps into what we like to joke about is like that voodoo economics thing, where it's like, oh, it works, but you got to trust me a little bit. Like the math is not a super clear. This equals here, like it is with all those other things. So it takes a lot to go out into that.
Actually, if you really look at it, it's business is either dull, boring, and it's a headache for the founder, or it can be fun if he sets it up as a game. If he sets it up as a game and enrolls everybody into that game, then you'll start seeing results. The problem with most founders is that they set up games like marketing. You go and do sales, execution. You do this. But the real game that's going on in their mind is exactly what is the one that you spoke about. Is it's about the P&L, the revenue, the cost of goods sold, the gross profit, the fixed expenses, and the net profit. We'll just stay there. Forget the taxes, right up to there. So they set up a GP game, a gross profit game, and get everybody aligned. And everybody can start seeing on a daily basis, are they helping the company generate more GP? And I haven't seen too many business owners focus on GP and break even. So they're left focusing on cash flows. And they're the ones that are all the time worried, sleepless nights, because they haven't got the team playing the game that they need to be playing. End of the day, all business, whether it's a charitable organization or not, they've got to generate gross profit. If they're not generating gross profit, they cannot cover their expenses. If they cannot cover their expenses, they're going south. So if you get people to play that game, create the guardrails, give them this, these are your swim lanes. And end of the day, I want to see you move the needle on GP, whether it's revenue, whether it's cost of goods sold, or it is, the time factor, wastages, all of that stuff. Because everybody has that connection in what they're doing to contribute to the GP. They don't see it.
Do you have anything on this, Dad? I want to go back to something else. Oh, sorry, Reggie, go ahead.
Yeah, so the point really, Otis, is very simple. Whenever I hear things like this, straight away it tells me, man, you're doing your business in a very funny way. You know that you want GP. You don't want to share the numbers with your people. You think they're aliens, they're your enemy. Be transparent. Share everything with people. Let them play the game. Only then ownership will show up. That's the other point on ownership, Camden. I can't be secretive with you and expect you to own things.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to let you go, Kim, but I just got to say, I've had clients that were like that. They're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
they're the only one that has the numbers in their head. And it's like, man, you are never going to get these people on board the way you keep saying you want to. Yeah, it's shocking sometimes when people are have their inner circle of folks that they spend all these hours with, and they don't trust them like that. Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just give 30-second quick one. I know, Camden.
Yeah, please. No, go ahead.
So 30 seconds, I'll tell you, I did an experiment a while back when, I was working with a team that was absolutely brilliant. I mean, this was so I told these guys, let's go and do an offsite for 2 days, and we will, set up a strategy, our numbers, our plans, etc. And I told them it's going to be extremely tough for you. So you guys, sort of eat your proteins, do what you need to, and get ready. So when they came in, it was so tough for them that they were like totally messed up. I said, okay, we did 100 last year. This year I want to do 90. I said, 2 days, you guys break out and come back to me with a plan that you go from 100 to 90. You can just imagine the sparks flying. What is this guy doing? What is he talking about? He's saying to, and they came back and they said, listen, you want to do 90, we'll give you 90, but we have decided to go to 130. I said, go, good for you, go for it. And
that's great. Psychology, right?
I had to do nothing. I just stepped back and I said, I'm not even going to have meetings with you because I'm slowing you down.
I love that.
Just think about this. The honor, the respect, the no pressure. There's so much of creativity that came in.
Yeah.
People are scared to try this.
The piece I was going to say.
Go for it. Yeah.
I got other ideas, but no. The quick story I was going to say was with when I was working with Cobra Valley, my first business venture out of college, and I think that was one of the things that drove me so crazy with it before I even left the CEO was that things like this kept happening where it was not transparent with things. I had ownership over my task. I was working over here, and I would be like, gosh, I wish I had money to, buy these lights or do this thing here. Then I would leave, and I'd come back on Monday, and there would be something bought over there. And I go, wait, I think we could put that over. But it's one of those, hey, if we were transparent and he explained that to me, I probably wouldn't have had a single problem with that. But because he wasn't transparent, I thought he was trying to sabotage my project and all these kind of things there. So it's super important. I agree on that. What I wanted to shift back to was the ancestral business, Rajesh, the umbrellas. Because they're 1880 to going right now 2026, that is a very long time for a business to be running, especially inside of a family. What do you think are some of the components I'm about to ask you to bottle up wisdom again, so don't bottle it up, tell me a story, but but what do you think are some of the reasons that the business has been able to stay together? Because I think a lot of times you have one generation, maybe two, that fall in line with that vision, and then things tend to splinter away after that. I don't know the math. I'm guessing that's 7 generations or so, 140 years, something like that. Long time is the point.
So, some of the things that when I grew up, I heard a lot of this repeated around, is that we are running this business, but profit is not our prime motive. So as a child, when that's the diet that you're fed, if profit is not your prime motive, it is a motive, it's not the prime motive, then what becomes your motive? So the next thing, a few years later, I discovered that in our organization, we don't look for profitable clients. Everybody's looking for profitable clients. Who can they really profit most from? I mean, it makes sense, right? If I'm running a business, I want to work with profitable clients. So in our entire business, and these are a bunch of businesses, not just one, we started looking for profiting clients. So who are the clients that would profit the most from what we create and offer them? And now when you decode it, it makes so much sense that if you are serving your most profiting clients, they're going to stay with you and they're going to bring other people to you. So profit is not our prime motive. We're not looking for profitable clients. We're looking for profiting clients. And the other thing is, we never fire anybody. Till today, we got 3 families that are working with us for 5 and 6 generations. 2 families, 5 generations.
Wow.
And the other is the 6th generation. So our job offer is, listen, this is the job offer that we're giving you for the next 300 years.
That's just a completely different mindset.
So we're taking care of our people. We're taking care of our, and we are in here for the long haul. And you see these principles sustain. And all the companies that don't sustain are doing the exact opposite of this. I bake a cake, but sorry, Mr. Customer, the biggest piece of the cake I'm going to keep for myself. And you're lucky if you get a piece, which is not dried and shriveled up, and you can enjoy that. But at the end of the day, you're a dumb guy. After all, you're only a customer. I mean, you're existing so that I have a grand life. It is as stupid as that.
Yeah, and I can tell you here in our culture, our startup culture in the U.S., it's all about the exit.
Yeah, but that's so. See, that's a game. We can play that game as well. I do exits, I do valuation, I do every damn thing you can think of, but by applying principles that make things work.
And I think the big thing also, and we've talked about this on the show before, Dad, is the idea that, like as you put it, Rajesh, like that we can play that game too, but the importance of being honest about what game we're playing. Because I think where it rubs us wrong is not the person who goes, "Hey, I'm here to make money." We're okay with that person. We see them; they're making money. That's okay. What we hate is the person who goes over here and says, "Hey, I'm a family. We're a family. I'm taking care of you." Da, da, da. And then they just want to be in it for the money. That's where it rubs us wrong. I think that's where the key distinction is, and I think that's. I don't know. I'm trying to. How much of that is a cultural piece of we all read the management books, we read the leadership books, and we hear Rajesh on the podcast, and everyone listens to this and goes, "You know what? He's right. It's not about profit. It's about taking care of our people and all these kind of things." And then that shiny check from a VC gets in front of them, and they change. Or I don't know what it is, but because I think that is, a core problem of where that distrust comes from the employee base to the leadership team is because they're not clear with what their goals are on that. Do y'all think, I know we're just pontificating now, but do y'all think that's because they changed their goal or because they're being dishonest about it in the first place?
Cabinet, it really brings us full circle back to what you started out with, is that, people take control of people. They've got something that's burning them inside. So they're always compensating for all the things that went wrong with them in their life. And then they get into this pretense mode to make things work. So they've got all the people around them, and then kind of they carry on, but they don't even know that they're pretending. Let's be fair to them. Now comes this shiny VC check in front of them, and what happens to that pent up stuff inside them? It just explodes, and they can't keep up their norm. So that's when you realize that this guy was actually pretending. So the point really here is we can't blame anybody on this game, but it's really a question. So what we also, the last piece about that question about 1880 till now, is that I also heard many times as growing up that we are a 300% company. We are focused 100% first on relationships, whether it is us, our clients, or our people that work on relationships. We are 100% committed to all the numbers, and we are 100% committed to the spiritual element and respect all the religions and backgrounds and celebrate everybody, whether it's from our background or another background, doesn't matter which religion. So with the result that we created a sense of belonging, we created a community. So communities really fend for themselves and look out for each other. So these three things, when you build, you go for a 300% company, it's rock solid.
Yeah. I'm just I'm still doing the math in my head, but yes,
100% plus 100% plus 100% is 300%.
well,
Come on.
no, but here's smart ass Otis. So how does that work with business physics? Because that's what I want to touch on your concept of business physics, because I used to love physics until I went to college, and then I learned to hate it. So now I got to learn about business physics. So
you're on the thermodynamics there. You can't create new energy or whatever the hell that is. You know more than me.
So, the way to understand business physics is you want to light a campfire, and if the wood that you're going to light is wet, either it's not going to work at all, or it's going to take you so much effort. So wet wood is the bottleneck. So unless you are able to solve the wet wood and get dry wood, you're never going to be able to. So basically, it's really about finding out what's the bottleneck that's coming in the way of the result. And there's always only one bottleneck. There's always only one constraint, never more than one. So if you have a chain, it has 10 links. Let's say for the sake of a number, link number 5 is the bottleneck. So you got to be able to first identify the correct link and then strengthen it. Only then the throughput of the chain, the load carrying capacity of the chain will go to the next level. After that, link number 7 will become the next weakest, and so on and so forth. So as we start applying physics, what happens is the throughput or the output starts growing without the chain becoming too heavy. What do I notice? They say, listen, I want to go to the next level. This is my chain. I'm going to do everything at the same time. They have invested so much of time, effort, money, resources in the chain. Chain has become very heavy, and they're wondering how come they haven't been able to move the needle. So they're not applying physics. You have a flat tire, rear right, and you tinker around with the other tires. It's not going to make things work. When I say it like this, it sounds stupid. But this is what intelligent people are doing.
Yeah. I love the, I hate to call it simplification, but it really is, because there is one constraint. And when you identify that constraint and fix it, then you find the next one. But you got to find the first one, the weakest one, or the one that's, constricting the flow the most before you can move on to the next one, don't you?
Yeah. And, so there's another example. Most businesses hurt for prospects, because unless you have a stream of continuous prospects coming to you, your business is going to, the lifeblood of the business is sales. It's about from prospects, right? So they go chasing prospects. They call them target market. Now, hello, you want a customer to come to you, and you're in your mind, it's a target. You're going to chase them. It's like a, it's like the fox hunt. The British, they would get on to those horses and the fox, and halfway through the match, they would stop and say, "Hey, Mr. Fox, are you okay? You're fine. Okay, now we start running." So customers are not. It's not a fox hunt, for God's sake. You're pushing them away. The language, it starts with the language, target market. What the hell do you mean? I don't want to be your target market, man. I'm not target practice. I have issues and problems, and if you can help me, come with clean hands, come with love, come with affection, come with friendship. So the whole point here is that instead of figuring out how do you do lead generation, you start becoming a lead magnet. So I took this on for myself. After COVID, I had to close down my center. My practice came down from where it was for the longest time, way down to about 5% of what it used to be. And I said, I'm not going to step out of my world. I'm not going to do crazy things. I'm just going to keep on working on becoming a client magnet. So I made a little board there, sold out client magnet. It took me 1 year to get there. And now I'm sold out. With the waiting list, this is 3 years. How does that happen? I'm not smarter than most coaches. But it's just that I care. I'm available. 5 o'clock morning slot is always open for my clients. I don't want to sleep if they're having sleepless nights. It's a strong partnership model. And I don't have answers. That's it. This is what people care for. They don't care for, look, I can't compete with AI. But still I'm sold out.
Yeah. Man, that's that shift is huge, and I'm holding up the mirror. Well, actually, I don't have to because I got a video. I don't have to hold up the mirror, but my military focus. I'm all about the targeting, right? So. Yeah, we'll relook how we approach that, Camden.
Who was it that we had on that he was a recon sniper, and he's talking about his hit list of guys he wants to go out and get his clients. And now that we zoom out on that, it's a little funny.
And as a hunter too, I'm like, I need to figure out how to be a lead magnet for elk. Instead of chasing the elk, I need a lead magnet for elk. I won't have to walk as far. I can tell you that.
But
I think those folks in Texas have that figured out with the farms.
Unless you walk this path of targets and hit lists and all the rest of it, you don't have the distinctions to qualify and clarify. So, I mean, the reason why I am sitting where I'm sitting with all these people is because I've created a category of 4 types of prospects or clients. The first category is God's gift. The second category is professional. They treat you very well. They don't eat up your energy. The third category are whiners. And the fourth category are rascals. So whiners keep whining. They make you miserable because they whine a lot. The rascals make you whine. So I did a complete study of about 50 clients, and I just marked them, tagged them A, B, C, D. And then when I collected the ones in the C and D versus the A and B, I looked for what are the telltale signs, which I pick up in the first or the second meeting. And the moment I pick it up, I said, no, thank you very much. I can't work with you. So it became a club. See, a club, an exclusive club, and a client magnet go together. So I'm serving
Like
A
that.
and B. Because I'm serving A and B, I'm very relaxed. I'm always available. They don't eat up my time. They're very respectful. They become friends. And then they tell their people, hey, come to this guy. He's cool. He's not going to bullshit you with theoretical answers. He'll tell you a story, but in that story, something will start working for you. So this is basically, I took this on that I want to serve people. I want to stay consistent with our family values.
That's yeah, and that's what a great way to round us into what I learned. And I'm going to go back to a very philosophical thing you said. I feel like I've thrown out some Stoic quotes on here in the show and over the years, but this one ranks right up there with something that somebody has said it. But I just love the what you told Camden. In your question is the answer, and in your answer is the question. That is, dude. That's some deep shit right there, and I am pondering that, and I will ponder that. I may even have to go out and light up a cigar and ponder that one some more, because that is yeah. I just in your answer, yes, in your question is the answer, and in your answer is the question. Damn.
Well, that's why my questions are so long.
Yeah. That no, but that's got me like that's the yogi in the cave sort of thing of up on the mountain. I've given you the secret to life, young Camden. So, Camden, what'd you learn?
Well, I learned that you can't take that secret and bottle it up and pass it on to other folks. And I think that's something I think we've talked about on the show a bunch, the idea of trying to pass on wisdom and that you can't really do it. There's, the whole, like, if people aren't ready, they're not going to hear it, right? If they're all ready, they'll hear it every time. Like, there's so much to that. But just the idea of, Rajesh, what you had said of the analogy of it's like a bottle of wine. And it's like, once you put it in the bottle, it's done. And I think it makes me think back to you, Dad. You mentioned, your Stoic quotes, like you put in the newsletter and all of that. You go back and read Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday. That's why that's so good, is because he's taken this bottle of wine, opening it up and saying, oh, here's what it's like. And he adds a layer that gives us actual context to it, because the original is freaking hard. I've read actual just Marcus Aurelius Meditations. A lot harder to get lessons out of it than it is Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday talking about baseball and modern stuff along the way, right? You as the wisdom lives and breathes and kind of is more organic like that, it can be harder to pass it along, but also you don't lose the lesson at the same time. And I think that's a really interesting piece.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and a couple of things there. It's basically all of this inside of a framework called there are consequences. So if you align on the consequences ahead of time, then things start to work. So it's not about leaving things loose. That's not the purpose here. It's a very focused game. It also becomes a no mercy game when it comes to the consequences. But we are not working with the consequences as if that is the founder's purpose. He's not a policeman. He's not setting up these consequences so that every day he goes and shoots 3 people.
Oh, yeah.
And I just Camden, I'm inviting you to look at that carefully.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing words which are brilliant. I see tribe, I see
Mhm.
purpose, I see pivot, and I see enable.
Mm.
Just that word
You
enable.
got good eyesight. You got good glasses on.
These these four words is really what everything is all about.
Mm.
So you start with creating the tribe and the purpose. And here's the universal purpose for everybody for the rest of our time in life. It's not Camden, your purpose, or my purpose, or Otis' purpose. It is the purpose of nature. So the purpose of nature is to make friends, have fun, be playful, and make memories.
Mm.
When these things come together, that's the purpose your tribe will form.
Mhm.
And once your
Yeah.
tribe starts to form, you're also enabling your people and your team. And if it's not working, all we do is we pivot.
Mhm.
So either we persevere or we pivot, but we always
Mhm.
together.
Man.
So that's what I see, Otis, in your. I think this is it's a very brilliant effort from both of you, where you're opening new possibilities for people. I've been on many podcasts. You've seen many podcasts, and they are kind of not they're not open to a conversation. And
Mhm.
uh, when we started, Camden said this and he said that, and then as I started putting things out there, you started to flow with it.
Mhm.
So you yourself are not bottled.
Mhm. Mm.
And one of the biggest legacy pieces that I see with the two of you is, you know, how you have shaped up inside of what Otis has provided, and obviously probably your mom, but he's provided. You've grown up. You're enjoying this process. You're not. There's so much of freedom.
Mhm.
Can we create that in our leadership teams?
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Does dad need to wear a cap and keep banging the table, my way or the highway? Or can he just be
Mhm.
the purpose, the tribe, the pivot, the enabler, those four words, and we're done? It's very
Yeah.
simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It can be
Yeah,
if you let it be.
I'm saying it. I'm actually saying back to you what I'm seeing, not what you
Mm.
profess.
Mm. Mm.
Whatever you profess, I don't know. But I'm sharing what I'm seeing. And what
Yeah.
I'm seeing is where the wealth lies for founders.
Mm. Yeah. Very
And it
true.
doesn't get more complicated than father son, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe six generations of fathers and sons. I gotta say.
Well,
Because
Talk to us in 180 years.
at a certain point in time, the greatest wisdom that came through in this organization, which has been around from 1880, is we have settled for mediocrity.
Mm.
mm,
Hmm.
Because mediocrity is the currency of communities. We've never tried to excel. We've never tried to grow. We've never tried to become the wealthiest, the biggest, the richest. We're
Hmm.
there for each other. When we get together, there's so much of wealth. Every 3 years, a family comes together in a city. A person owns one of the family descendants. He owns a five-star property. And in December, when it's lean season, every 3 years, it gathers everybody. About 150 of us get together there. And nobody is trying to show he's bigger and better and has more this and more that. No, we just show up. That's
Mm.
community.
mm,
And that community is, if you're able to tolerate mediocrity in your team, You'll start seeing amazing results. Amazing. This is all what they tell you to do and what I've seen happen are two different things. So my learning here, Otis
Yeah, I
and
was going to
Camden.
ask you, but you're throwing out so much wisdom, Rajesh. Man, okay. So what did you learn, Rajesh?
So what I really learned is that the how. So there are two levels of learning, right? The first level of learning is how father and son show up, and my son is 26, and he and I could be doing this podcast, and flavor for flavor, word for word, not word for word, but flavor for flavor, mood for mood is a perfect match. And that's the joy that I have, like you have with Camden, both of you. So that's one. And then the other thing is that, in little things that you share is your willingness to reinvent yourself. Like in your case, it was the target and the army and that. I said, I want to rethink that. In Camden's case, it was, okay, he's made that pivot from being bottled up to free flowing. So that speaks volumes on the real value that you create. So that word that is that word is serendipity. And your podcast works because there's a golden nugget for everybody. If Otis doesn't get a golden nugget by serendipity, if Camden doesn't get a golden nugget by serendipity, and I, as a guest, don't get a golden nugget by serendipity, then the people who are going to view this are not going to get anything.
Awesome.
So
Rajesh,
you
how do
guys are,
folks?
so you present serendipity for me.
Awesome. Thank you. How do folks find you, follow you, see what you have going on? Get on your waiting list too.
Yeah, so waiting list is for my one-to-one clients, but we are starting out cohorts of 6 people. They will come together in forums. So that process is underway and probably going to start in a month or so. So the best way to get in touch with me is my website. It's rajeshnagji.com. And also, follow me on LinkedIn, because every day for 5 days in a week, I put out posts which are very, very different. My posts are about all the messes I made. You'll get unvarnished. It's like my wife said, that you're one person who can go out there and talk about all his blunders and all his mistakes and all that stuff. I find that works. And I'm not doing it as manipulation. I'm just sharing it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Otis, and thank you, Camden. Over to you.
Rajesh, man, it's been a pleasure having you join us today. Thank you so much for your time.
You're absolutely welcome.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Rajesh Nagjee, for joining us today. You can remember you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass it along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.